So you've got this incredible story idea swirling around in your head, fascinating characters, an amazing concept, but when you sit down to write, nothing happens. You find yourself staring at that blinking cursor on a blank screen for hours. Sound familiar? Trust me, I've been there too. And in today's video, I'm going to share the key principle that can help you transform those ideas into a compelling story, which is pacing. Now, you might be thinking, isn't there just some formula I can follow to get unstuck? The truth is, formulas don't produce stories, they produce products. And yes, there are plenty of gurus out there who will happily take your money to teach you their foolproof formulas, but following them will only make your story end up like theirs, so it won't be unique and it won't be authentic. So if there are no formulas, then what's the solution? Well, the answer lies in understanding and applying storytelling principles. There's no secret plan, no magic software, no foolproof tutorial. Writing is hard work, but knowing certain principles can make that hard work more likely to result in an excellent story. So let's forget about formulas and focus on techniques and principles that actually work. On top of this, it's also worth mentioning, don't get bogged down by structural models. You might have heard about the 3-act structure, Freytag's pyramid or the hero's journey. While these models are valuable for analyzing existing stories, they're not the best foundation for building your own plot. Think of yourself as an architect. Architects don't just replicate existing buildings, they understand structural principles that allow them to design something fresh and structurally sound that hopefully won't fall over. We've established the core principle of storytelling is pacing, but what exactly is pacing? A lot of people incorrectly think pacing is simply balancing high-intensity scenes with slower ones, but that's more about style than structure. Pacing is actually about how you present plot events in sequence, progressing the story steadily and logically. It's the rhythm or the choreography of your plot. It creates a sense of time and progression. Pacing is essential because it controls the speed and rhythm at which your story unfolds. Just like music has a beat that keeps your listeners engaged, your story needs a rhythm that's going to keep readers interested. So here are the 4 main points you need to understand about pacing. So first, pacing controls speed. Pacing determines how fast or slow your story feels at any moment. A fast pace might be used during an action-packed chase scene, while a slower pace allows for deep dives into a character's thoughts and emotion. Pacing sets the rhythm of your story, balancing intense scenes with calmer moments. And this keeps your audience from feeling either overwhelmed, right, by non-stop action, or bored because there's just too much downtime. Pacing guides progression, right? Pacing helps convey the passage of time and the development of your story. It can make moments feel fleeting or prolonged, depending on the effect you're aiming for. And pacing builds anticipation, right? By controlling pacing, you can build suspense and anticipation, slowing down before a big event, and then which will heighten the tension and then speed up to create excitement and urgency. In essence, pacing is about setting the speed and tone of each part of your story, guiding your audience smoothly from one event to the next. Now, the way to really master pacing is through using mini arcs. Okay, so what's a mini arc, right? So they are smaller sections with their own beginning, climax, and ending. So each mini arc should move the story forward and establish a rhythm that keeps readers engaged. So let me illustrate this with a quick story concept. Okay, so our main character is Simon Safecracker, and he's a skilled thief, right? Now we introduce the conflict. So he's hired to rob a bank owned by his father, and then the supporting character is Kate, the cop, and Simon's high school friend is unknowingly hunting them. And then we introduce a twist. So Katie's father is the one who hired Simon to rob the bank. So this is how that opening mini arc would go, right? So we'd have the setup. Simon is mid-heist. Then he's interrupted and captured by a mob boss. Then comes the conflict. The mob boss gives him an ultimatum, right? Rob his father's bank or face dire consequences. So then Simon makes a resolution, right? He reluctantly agrees. And that is what sets the main plot in motion. And you can see this mini arc has introduced the protagonist, the antagonist, and also the central conflict. So now let's bring in the second mini arc, and we'll follow the same process as the above. So we have the setup again. Simon tries to appease the person who hired him for the interrupted job. Then comes the conflict. The previous contractor is furious, right? He's furious about this. So that adds another layer of tension. And then we have the resolution. So Simon goes, okay, right, I need to negotiate. And he says, I'll take a member of the mob boss's crew on the bank job. And so again, this arc builds on the last and it pushes the story forward. So why do these mini arcs work so well? Well, using mini arcs helps maintain good pacing by ensuring that each part of your story has a purpose and moves the plot forward. Creates a rhythm, right, that keeps your audience engaged because each mini arc is bringing new developments and mini resolutions at the same time. So I think the best way to illustrate this is with a few examples that have really good pacing. So take John Wick, right? The pacing is fantastic in these films and it's achieved through escalating confrontation, right? Each encounter is a mini arc that pushes the plot and the character development forward, and it keeps the audience engaged. Video games often do this with these mission-based structures that you've probably seen. So each mission is an act, basically. It's a mini arc. And all the mini arcs normally culminate in a boss fight at the end. And this keeps the player engaged. And a final example is Ocean's 11, right? The first mini arc is Danny Ocean's parole hearing. It's a very small task that introduces his character and hints at future plans. And then each subsequent mini arc involves him recruiting a new member of the team who each one of those has their own mini climax. And so this step-by-step progression keeps the audience engaged from start to finish. Another way to do this is to build pacing with the therefore technique. So all the mini arcs need to be connected logically. And this is to ensure that each mini arc leads smoothly onto the next. So use the therefore technique, right? The way you do this is after each event, you ask yourself what would logically happen next as a result. So if we apply it to Simon's safecracker story, the event would be Simon is kidnapped mid-heist and indebted to a mob boss, right? Therefore, his previous contractor is angry, right? You remember he was furious. And that adds more tension to the story. So then we have another event. Simon's capture is caught on a security camera. Therefore, Katie, the cop, now has a lead on the famous safecracker. She doesn't realize yet that it's Simon. Then we have another event. Katie's investigation brings her closer to Simon. Therefore, personal relationships complicate the professional stakes. And this technique ensures a seamless flow of events, which maintains good pacing and keeps the audience engaged. The way to get better at pacing is actually to observe pacing in action. So watch movies, read books, and take note of how they've structured their mini arcs. So it's a new way to read and watch. And I did this when I did media studies when I was at college, is we would watch films, read, but we weren't reading to consume or watching to consume. We were studying, okay, why did I stay hooked there? What happened after that? Why did that happen? Actually, that bit was a bit boring. They didn't have a mini arc there, or that section of it went on too long, right? It's a new way to look at it, to analyze storytelling. Remember to avoid relying on rigid formulas and embrace fundamental storytelling principles like pacing to make engaging stories. Writing is hard work, but with the right techniques, you can make your story not just good, but you can make it great. If you enjoyed this, then make sure to check out the video on screen now, where I talk about an incredible writing tactic that can drastically improve your writing, and it comes from the creators of South Park.